The Firm, India's only show on corporate law, tax and audit matters.
Hello and welcome to The Firm. On the show this week, from buyers beware to builders beware of CCI, consumer courts and now criminal courts. And investors beware as well. 40% of India Inc. says it has not yet started preparing for Indian accounting standards. The biggest problem that home buyers in India face is inordinate delays in the delivery of their homes or apartments. Beware of builders who are infamous for project delays, one-sided purchase agreements and customer harassment. Well, maybe the tables have turned. Now, builders better beware, or else, like the 4 directors of Unitech, they'll be spending some precious time in jail. Aayush Ailawadi reports that CCI, consumer courts and now criminal courts are collectively ringing a loud wake-up bell for the real estate industry.
Like thousands of other Indian home buyers, Sanjay Kalra and Videsh Vadva did not get the delivery of their under-construction homes in time. They complained to the consumer court, where builder Unitech promised them compensation. But Unitech failed again. Kalra and Vadva then went to a criminal court and accused the builder of cheating. The court sent Unitech chairman Ramesh Chandra, managing directors Sanjay Chandra and Ajay Chandra, and director Minoti Bahari to judicial custody. And though they did get bail, it was only after spending a night in Tihar jail.
In the past also several criminal complaints have been filed, and the developers on the first date of the hearing used to get the bail. This is one rare instance where the courts have come to the conclusion that the case is made out. And also in this they have referred to what has happened, what has transpired in last 3 months, the manner in which the order was flouted, the exemptions, all the dilatory tactics that were adopted. So basically a message has been sent very clearly that we are aware that you are powerful, you have a ability to engage lawyers, pay them huge fees, and you can and the system, usually people were complaining that they were getting away with the system, and by taking the advantages of the procedures, creating delay and making sure that the buyers are so weak that they will not be able to follow up with the cases. So from overall perspective, the order really serves a wake-up call.
It's a chronic problem and it's only going to get worse. One survey suggests that 15 lakh residential units across 7 top cities in India are currently delayed by 1 to 3 years. Prop equity claims of the 9,591 residential projects launched between 2008 and 2010, 7,391 are yet unfinished. So what recourse do home buyers have? Well, to begin with, they can approach the consumer court.
But as reputed consumer lawyer Shirish Deshpande points out, the redressal system in consumer courts has not panned out as planned.
Consumer courts remedy under the Consumer Protection Act is really expected to be efficacious, it was expected to be speedy, it was expected to be simple, and it was also expected to be less expensive or inexpensive. Unfortunately, the ground reality today, if you see, it is neither speedy, nor simple, nor inexpensive. And consumer courts, as you say, if you start with a district forum, many a time other party being powerful, and builders usually are powerful and resourceful, they drag you right up to Supreme Court also. So that has been a very sort of a painful journey in the consumer courts to get the redressal. Although the law says, okay, 90 days, within 90 days your complaint must be redressed and all, but it is only on paper. In reality, I can tell you, the cases are languishing even for 10 years in Maharashtra.
To answer your question about consumer forum, in theory, yes, but in practical, there's a problem in the enforcement. And sometimes, in my experience, at a state level or a district level, sometimes in order to meet the ends of justice, I think consumer protection, the consumer forums also cross the line, and in resultant their orders get set aside at the national, at the appellate forums also.
In a recent case, also against Unitech, the National Consumer Forum gave home buyers a big victory. It was a case of delayed delivery of apartments, and though the agreement said the builder will pay 1.8% interest during the delay, the National Consumer Forum ordered Unitech to pay 12%. And if the homes were not delivered by a revised date, the interest payable was 18%. It also awarded the home buyers litigation costs and said that any additional service tax was to be borne by the builder.
12% interest on the money that you have paid is not very unusual. In fact, I can tell you our own case where Mumbai Grahak Panchayat had filed a case before the National Commission only on behalf of about 272 flat buyers in Virar, Mumbai. In that, the money, it was a case of only refund of the money, and in that the National Commission granted 18% interest from the time that complainants have paid this money to the builder. So it was a huge amount for that. And well, again, I would say, considering the escalation in the real estate prices, if you compare with that, this is nothing something great or out of way or something unusual. It's a very normal thing.
I think it's a good remedy because it's a speedier remedy than others. But it's not something that is very wide-ranging because each person would have to apply. If a building is delayed and there are 100 flats in the building, it's not usually all 100 who would apply to the consumer court. It'll just be a few. And so those individuals can get a remedy, but there's no complete or comprehensive action that is taken against a builder who has violated the terms and conditions of his agreement.
Besides consumer courts, another forum which provided customers some relief was the Competition Commission of India. In 2014, CCI fined DLF 630 crore rupees for unfair and abusive practices against customers. After that, CCI was flooded with complaints from harassed home buyers. But the DLF rationale couldn't apply to all.
That was in the case of a company which was the largest real estate company in India, DLF. And therefore, the concept of dominant undertaking may not apply to every single real estate developer, especially if it's smaller buildings, etc., because these are sometimes the cases where there are defaults. And therefore, the Competition Commission is not the most effective one to go to.
I don't think many developers have taken the orders of CCI very seriously because there is not a single instance of CCI orders being executed or CCI order being taken to the logical conclusion at the end of the day. All these fancy numbers of compensation, penalties, whatever we are talking about, where have they been recovered? So there has to be one recovery from CCI and you will see the seriousness.
Consumer courts are slow and the CCI's jurisdiction is narrow. So last month's action by the criminal court in the Unitech case may be seen as a beacon of hope by aggrieved home buyers. But it's important to remember that Unitech's directors were not sent to judicial custody for delayed delivery of homes, but they were sent to judicial custody because they had promised the consumer court that they would compensate buyers and had failed to do so.
When a person enters into an agreement to buy a flat, for him to allege that it was a case of cheating is something completely different from a delay in complying with a contract. So it is only if a person has a very clear case of cheating where the developer just didn't have title to the land and knew that he would not be able to complete, that's a different situation. If, however, a person had filed, for instance, a consumer case and then an undertaking had been given to the consumer forum and then that undertaking is violated, well, that might lead to a charge of contempt of court or to criminal proceedings. But criminal proceedings will not be applicable to every case of default in a contract.
Usually I find that the consumers and the flat buyers are content with saying that, okay, my money, whatever I have paid, I am interested in getting my flat back and I am not really interested in sending the builder behind bars. Okay, so it will suffice if I get possession of my flat. If there is a long delay and all, some directions that the builder completes the flat within a certain period, time gap lines, and I get a compensation for the money that was stuck and locked with the builder for long years and all. So usually the flat buyers I see, they are content with that, and not very many consumers are seen, that is why, going into the criminal courts, knocking the door of the magistrate and trying to send the builders behind bar.
It depends upon what stage the buyer is. Suppose if the buyer has not got the possession for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years and he's been running from pillar to post, then I think for him this is an appropriate remedy, because this is the ultimate coercive remedy which may force. But it has a other side also, because suppose you file a complaint, maximum how many days you will keep a person in the jail? 5 days. Then once a person is sent to a custody for 1 day, then whether it is 1 day or 5 days, I am just talking from the mindset of a developer, he will say, okay, fine, I mean it's better to sit inside for 4 days, 5 days, get a bail and then come outside. So then once you are outside, the coercion does not work. So I think it has, it will depend upon how a person will use this as a remedy.
Soon, home buyers may have another forum that they can go to, a real estate regulator.
I think there is great need for a proper regulator. There are many other kinds of activity which do have a regulator. There's the telecom regulator, there's the insurance regulator, and I see no reason why there should not be a real estate regulator. But then it must be an effective one. We do not want a regulator which will just add to confusion or issue regulations without understanding all the implications, and it must ensure that getting permissions also comes within its scope, that if a developer applies for permissions and those are held up at a municipal corporation or in the environment ministry for years and years, then that's not the way it must function. There should be a time limit for everything, and the regulator should be able to crack down not only on a developer but even on government bodies which delay.
Unitech's case has definitely served as a wake-up call for developers. It's also emboldened aggrieved home buyers to take on big builders, since the courts and the government are finally taking some active steps to protect consumers. In Mumbai, Aayush Ailawadi.
Well, work on creating an independent regulator for the real estate industry is also underway. So hopefully that will mean more power to consumers. On that note, let's take a quick break on the firm. Coming up next, investors beware. 40% of India Inc. says it is not yet prepared for Indian accounting standards.